I'd just like to talk for a few minutes. On Saturday, I'm going away for about a week. And, to me, it's a very important trip. I need to relax, rest a bit. It's been a really intense few years dealing with COVID and all these classes being taught on Zoom. And, but the purpose of it is simple. And I realized it, many days ago. I have to regenerate myself. And, because I'm going to start in-person classes again. And I think it's going to come time to truly develop people that can be teachers of this work. My job is to pass it on. My job is not to take everything I've learned to the grave, but to give it to people that truly want to devote themselves to building a spiritual life and helping other people do the same. So this trip is really kind of like my Easter, I mean, it's going to be a resurrection of Stuart because I need the strength, I need that depth of meaning in my life in order to do what I have to do over the next few years. So, it's an opportunity not only for me, it's an opportunity for everyone, who studies here and is truly in need of a spiritual life. I mean, what I learned from Rudy has been completely miraculous. And how I've learned it is through the practice of this double breathing exercise and through, nurturing a chakra system over so many years that it finally caught on that it's got to grow and it's got to do literally what's almost impossible to do in the world. That's to find enlightenment and to pass spiritual teachings on to other people. So it's a wonderful union of teacher, student, because all of that knowledge has to go from generation to generation. And any teacher, whatever you teach, it really should be approached that way, as a bearer of knowledge, as a giver of wisdom, nurturing people so they can grow in their life, and a new generation of whatever it is, people can grow up and continue, whatever work it is that's being taught. Something came up yesterday that I need to talk just a little bit about. I don't like to talk about this, but it did come up and I really haven't talked about it for years. And it has to do with this double breathing exercise. I mean, this is an amazing gift that Rudy left all of us. In fact, I've always said this is the best thing he ever left in the world, because the double breathing exercise made it possible for him to do what he did. It makes it possible for me to do what I'm doing. And it certainly is helping everyone that comes to these classes to build a deep inner life. Now there's, I have a couple of rules, not many, a couple. One of them, as you all know, is no drugs. And another rule I never even thought about until something came up yesterday. And that really has to do with the sacred nature of the double breathing exercise. It is not something to be used in therapy with other people. It is not something to be given away. If somebody is interested in learning it, you have to send them to a teacher who truly has developed over the years the capacity to give away, the teachings through this exercise. I mean, it's not something that you sit down and give this and then start looking at them in the eye and start doing this exercise with them. I mean, you can do damage to another human being. I don't think many people realize the kind of responsibility that is involved in teaching what I teach. It literally is assuming, a part of me has to assume, a big part of me has to assume that my job is nurturing people. My job is helping them to grow in their life, and taking that work on my shoulders is a huge responsibility. And showing the double breathing exercise in some way is a very huge responsibility. And I'm asking you, if somebody is interested, you can give them my email address. I can direct them to myself or other people who can show them the exercise, and it can be done in a very healthy, organic way. But don't sit down and start giving people this exercise and then start staring at them and thinking you're transmitting Shakti. It could be a very dangerous thing for yourself and for other people. And if I find out that people are doing this, I won't stand for it for a moment. I mean it. I will give people a warning. And if they continue doing with it, I will ask them to stop studying with me. I cannot be responsible for that. If the time comes when anyone in this group is ready to be a teacher, I will be the first one to tell them. And at that point, they will evolve and be quite capable of giving the double breathing exercise and taking full responsibility for it in terms of whatever relationship grows up between themselves and another human being. So please don't do that. I'm sure most of you don't, but if anybody ever had the thought to do, don't do it. I don't want you to damage yourself or to hurt anybody else. And this is really an important thing. And as I'll repeat it again, when anyone here has evolved to the place where they're ready to be a teacher of this work, I will be the first one to tell them that. And part of becoming a teacher of this work is the ability to transmit and give this exercise to another human being. So please, I had a situation like this yesterday, and I don't like to talk about these things. I haven't talked about this for years, actually, but it's very important. And it really reminded me that I should just bring this up because it's so tempting to sit somebody down. Here's the double, and you have to be sure you even know the double breathing exercise correctly. There are many people that supposedly teach Rudy's work that don't teach the double breathing exercise correctly. So all of this is involved in my growth and your growth and the growth of every single one of us. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? Just to finish, this is not therapy. This is deep spiritual practice. People that do this supposedly have made a commitment in themselves to attain spiritual enlightenment in this lifetime. And that is really deep spiritual work. And it requires responsibility of an enormous nature. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, this is
Yes,
Linda. Hi.
yes,
Do you ever turn anyone away from this work?
yes. Not because I don't like people, it's because some people are not ready to do it. I'm doing a retreat in August, which we announced. And it's, there are people that will be turned away because they are not ready to do it. Everybody that's here is ready to do it. You've all been studying, many of you for a very long time, and, there's no problem. But if somebody just, I have somebody who got in touch with me a few weeks ago. Oh, I saw your videos. I love what you do. And I going on. I bought one of your books. I'm reading your book, but I'm an airplane pilot and I fly all over the world. And I will be in touch with you whenever I can be in touch with you. That person also mentioned that he would like to go to seminars and retreats that I give, but I can't do it. He has no training. It would be dangerous for him to come to the retreat. It's too strong. You have to have an inner life that is strong enough to do that kind of work. So yes, I turn people away out of responsibility, not because I'm a badass or I it's not that way. It's just out of being responsible to them and myself. Not a lot of people. And as I've always said, this work is open to anybody who wants to come. And if they want to get the training, they will always be invited to my in-person classes, to retreats, to whatever I do. These classes, to whatever I do, they're invited to come. But they have to get the training. And these classes are about getting that kind of training. Otherwise, it's not healthy. And I've had it. There are people I did invite to retreats, for instance, that had never been to a meditation class. It never works out. I've seen people get freaked out. I've seen people get frightened. I mean, this is really deep inner work, and people have to be ready to do it. So yes, I have turned people away. Not a lot, but I have turned people away. I remember once in New York, a woman came and she looked at me with this anger in her face. What do I have to be grateful about? I have nothing in the world to be grateful. I said, if that's your condition, then you shouldn't be in my classes. And boy, she stormed out the door with a lot of ingratitude that somebody told her no, you know? Better at the beginning than, a month down the lane where she's screaming and yelling at everybody, And frankly, if somebody needs to do this, they will beat the door down to get in. They really will. And I've had students like that who have, relentlessly say, there were people I don't want, and they would show up at my doorstep and say, I'm going to sleep here until you let me into the house. What am I going to do? Turn them away? No, you just love them for having that kind of guts and that kind of a need. So everybody's different, and everybody has a different approach to their spiritual life. But my single thing I look for is, does a person really have a need to attain a spiritual life in this lifetime? I look for that in every human being. And I don't care what their economic situation is, their background, where they come from. I've had street people come to my classes. I've taught in prisons. I've taught in every conceivable type of circumstance, hospitals, universities. I used to teach this as an accredited course at a university, believe it or not. And I probably had some of the worst students I've ever had. They had to write essays about meditation. I was hired by a university to teach this once when I lived in Texas. So many different kinds of people, but the underlying element is, does a person truly have a need to have a spiritual life? And that is something I look for, and it affects me profoundly. And I don't care what their background is. I don't care where they come from. I don't care about race, religion, anything. I've had I had a religious Jewish guy studying with me once who came with, all the paraphernalia, the hats, the yarmulkes, the hair, and it broke my heart, this guy, because he came for about 6 months. I'll never forget this guy. And one day he comes up to me and he said, Stuart, he said, I just want you to know something. All my life, I have looked for somebody who could teach me the Kabbalah. You are the first person I've ever met who can do it. He said, but I have to leave your classes. So I said, why? He said, I live in a community that if they ever found out I was doing this, they would kick my wife, my children, and me out of the community, and my whole life would be in an upheaval. It just kind of broke my heart. Guy looking all his life, and the people that are supposed to be teaching him religion won't let him do something which literally is at the core of their religion. And he had found, And that was the last time I ever saw him when he told me that. I mean, really, I mean, so I don't, it takes guts to do this. I couldn't say, well, fuck your community, just give it all up and find the Kabbalah. And I couldn't do that. That's not my job. That's his job to do. That's not my job. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I remember I stayed when I first went to Dallas, I stayed with a guy there, family that was a very, very rich family. They owned a huge insurance company. The guy's brother was a US senator in Congress. And I was staying there, and in the attic of his house, I used to use as a place to do a little writing and stuff like that. There were 4 pictures of, the archangels, and every picture had the face of this guy who was incredible. And I remember when I got back to New York, I told this to Rudy, and Rudy, and I said, Rudy, I don't think they're ever going to let go of their power, their money, their position in life. He said, well, that's what they have to surrender. If they're willing to surrender that, they can get all of the things I have to teach them. Doesn't mean they stop having money, but they let go of that image of who they are. And I am all the archangels. Every archangel, Gabriel and Michael, they all had his face. Something extraordinary, And this was a really famous family. I didn't even know how famous they were. Until later. They were a very famous family in Dallas, And they're the ones that sponsored Muktananda and Rudy and myself and a whole group of people to come from New York to Texas. So you never know what backgrounds people come from. Ultimately, whatever background they come from, it has to go. They have to be able to let go of it. And then by letting go of it, they truly get God's grace. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Hi, Stuart.
Yes.
You mentioned the word resurrection, and there was a conversation about it yesterday, and also coming up Easter, and that you're taking a rest. So when I hear patterns in words, I wonder, I question it. So I'm feeling like in this time right now, do you feel there's a time of rebirth, or at least in our lives? Can you talk about the process of breaking down and building up?
This time and period, this is the Kali Yuga, for God's sake. The world is going through hell, from pandemics to wars to, it's insane what's going on. But, the phoenix bird rises out of ashes. Rebirth comes from ashes. It comes from the terrible things that go on in the world. But it all depends on how people use it. Otherwise, you go from pandemic to war to this to that, to more hell and more hell. If you use it as a means of going deep inside yourself and transforming yourself, there will be a resurrection of your consciousness. Look, I've always believed that the Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, all of these great beings that have graced the earth, they exist inside each and every one of us. And that, that internal work taps that energy that gives us the kind of consciousness that Moses had, that Jesus had, the Buddha had, Krishna had, all religions. But we have to tap it. It's there. It exists inside each and every one. That is resurrection. That is the soul coming out of the ashes. That's the lotus flower coming out of muddy water. The rebirth, the resurrection of consciousness. And I think that is possible for every single human being. But one has to do the inner work to make that possible. And we're living in a period now that is truly probably the darkest period of the Kali Yuga. Well, maybe World War II and the Depression is pretty dark times also. But it's something that you either get swept away in and it kills you and destroys you, or you find a way to go deep enough in yourself to transform all of those ashes into the phoenix bird that enables you to resurrect yourself. And these are all metaphors for consciousness attaining a transcendental level. And that's all of this, what this meditation is about. That's all it's about. So I don't think there can be a better time than experiencing internal resurrection with all the hell going on in the world. Well, I mean, you can't even look at the news anymore. It's so terrible what people are doing to each other today. And we can, oh my God, it's terrible, this and that, complain and cry about, well, we can do something about ourselves. Because none of this is going to change until people change. I have said this over and over again. When people change in themselves, this whole Kali Yuga is going to go away. But man, you know what kind of job God has? But we can use this in order to manifest that phoenix bird in ourselves and let it come out of the ashes. Embrace the sun. That's resurrection to me. Not something that happened, 2,000 years ago, something that can go on right now in the internal life of every single human being. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, just to finish up, as you all know, I'm going away on Saturday. It is going to be a week of restoring myself and getting ready to do the work that I have to do in the next phase of my life. I'm hoping to pass all of that work on to all of you. There will be classes here in person. People are welcome to come, and there's going to be a retreat in August. I'm going to probably start doing more retreats, after August. And I'm really excited about this because, as I say, I have one single job in life, and that's to give away everything I've learned. That's my job. And I need people that want to come and take it and use it to build their own inner life, their own connection with God, and then pass it on to other people in turn. Does anyone else have a question? If you want to attend the retreat, there's already 15 people that have signed up, and the notice was sent out today. So, in order for me to confirm a place at this center, Stony Point, I need, 20 people. And then the limit they will allow us to use their meditation room, which is a very nice place there, is 25 people. So we're getting pretty close. If you're interested in coming, let Jennifer know as soon as possible. and we'll put your name down, on the list. And the second I get 20 people that confirm they want to come, I will reserve our place at the Stony Point Retreat Center. Okay, if there are no more questions, God bless you all. Thank you. And thank you for being here and doing this. And I, all right, I've said it 1,000 times, but I'm just very grateful to sit here and to be with all of you and to do this kind of work with all of you. And there probably will be some classes next week. I don't guarantee how many. The next class I do guarantee will be next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday. But in between now and next Sunday, I probably will have at least 1, 2 classes. If I don't have it, just forgive me. It means I'm resurrecting myself and I'm on the beach or something, and enjoying, a short vacation. So thank you and bless you all. And I'll see you all soon. Have a
Wonderful vacation, Stuart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. God bless you.
Enjoy well, Stuart.
You,
Thank
Stuart.
you.
Enjoy your time.
You
Good
deserve
night.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you, Stuart. Go rest.